Arr, grog.
Hey everyone, it's the Sideshed podcast with me, Peter Fickling, Kerry Walbis and Matthew Weir. So this week's been quite moving, well acted and serious. So I think maybe we should just take a week off. It's not really our scene, is it?
No, I actually cried this week.
Kerry Walbis has heart shocker.
And not for the usual reason when listening to the Archers.
What with desperation?
Yeah.
What got you, Kerry? Because I got it a bit when Tom of all people was explaining to Kirsty what he'd said to Wren.
Yeah, for me it was, and I think it's one of those where you could either have heard this as utterly cheesy and forced, or it would trigger some emotion. And it was when they were talking and you could then suddenly hear the child in the background, in the garden playing. And it was slightly off that it was like just so happened to be 5 years old, this child. But no, that did it for me. I think I was crying more for the poor child, the baby, for Wren, than I was for Kirsty or Tom at that point.
That's part of it, though, isn't it? I think it's that I was too. I'm going to largely sit this one out beyond making that comment because I'm not a parent, and I do know people that this has happened to, both friends and family. But I can't imagine really.
Yeah, I think it was a really difficult listen for some of the people on Twitter. They expressed that, whilst at the same time feeling it had been handled well by the scriptwriters and by the actors, some had to switch off and couldn't progress through the week, and others did persevere but found it very poignant and personal to them. Which is going to happen, isn't it? I mean, it's actually more common than you might think. We probably all know people who've had to deal with this kind of thing. I haven't myself, but my sister-in-law has had to, my best friend. So yeah, it's it's a subject that should really feature because it is something that happens to quite a lot of people.
Our journey to having our lovely little boy wasn't entirely smooth, and there was a miscarriage or two involved, but it felt like a completely different experience. I don't want to talk on it, but it felt like a completely different experience to what I was listening from Tom and Natasha. And I sort of, I mean, obviously, like it's like with Eskimos have 50 words for snow. Like I felt like there should almost be a different word for that level of bereavement compared to some of the, it's like an early term miscarriage.
Yeah, and also everyone's stories are ultra personal and different in their own ways as well as that. And obviously Tom and Kirsty had the additional trauma, if you like, of them having separated at the time anyway. So they were both, as it was demonstrated this week, they were both trying to deal with it separately until now. I thought that was quite well done. And it was good that they did come together, speak about it, both felt a lot better having spoken with each other in the garden.
The problem I kept on having was that it was Tom. And so you're sort of like, even when he's being really quite moving, there is a little bit of you that's kind of like, oh, sausage boy.
Yeah.
Sort of fun to, it almost sort of undercuts it slightly. But that said, the actor did a fantastic job. And it was, and also one of the things that came across was how patient and caring Kirsty was being with him, was sort of like giving him his time to mourn, because obviously it felt like he was playing catch up with her. She was a lot further down that path in terms of her kind of journey.
Yeah. Another superstar I thought in the whole week was Natasha.
Yeah.
And how she has allowed Tom, I mean, allowed is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, Tom and Kirsty to handle this in their own way and actively encourage them to go together to the garden, and for Tom to speak with Kirsty about the whole thing. So I think she was super, super supportive and gracious.
Yeah, it's the the friend in need, isn't it? I mean, it's very easy to be the super slick, super personable person, super slick, personal It's very easy to be the super slick, sort of superficially kind person.
It's harder to say it.
No, I can't edit it out, you total twat. I corrected myself and even left the pause in so I could elegantly slice it out. But anyway, so yeah. So anyway, Natasha was the exact opposite to Matthew. She let people just.
Well, I tell you what, in terms of the actress, that is the finest turn she's had since she does those gov.uk ads on the radio where she claims to be a business owner who thinks it's absolutely fine that she's got to fill out loads of new forms post-Brexit.
Oh.
They've targeted the wrong person, haven't they, for many reasons, but I don't know. I know that hasn't hit my radar. What about you, Keri?
No, it hasn't mine either.
Natasha's on there. She's like, oh, I run a small clothing business. Now we've got to fill out lots of forms to get clothes in and out of the country. Fine, let's get on with it. And all this ukulele music starts playing. And it's like, I don't think if you speak to the actual business owners, they're going, fine. They're probably saying something else beginning with the same consonant over and over again.
But also, how does she manage that on top of the juice business?
Funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's keep hiding it from Tom. She's probably started it on a 12,000th credit card.
She really is a Wonder Woman.
Her good works were referenced, weren't they, by Kirsty when she was talking to help me out, Phoebe, and she was saying, I haven't really got to know Natasha since she walked me around Felpersham looking for the boys.
Yes, I thought about that during the week, that the groundwork was already there between her and Kirsty, wasn't it? Because when Tom thought that, and admittedly, Kirsty did lose it a bit over trying to find the lads, didn't she?
Oh,
yeah, it was a bit crazy.
Misplaced guilt. And Natasha helped her wander the streets and the dark bus stops, etc., and where Tom wouldn't.
And there was other misplaced guilt this week as well, wasn't there, with Tom saying that whilst he knew it was irrational, he felt that the death of the baby was linked to him, was a punishment, really, for him abandoning Kirsty at the altar. So that's,
Can one of you two help me with the timeline? Did Kirsty get pregnant after the one night stand, after Helen getting off in the trial?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Because I couldn't figure out otherwise how it could have happened and my mind was a little hazy. But they got it on, didn't they, when Helen was given the all clear?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when that happened, because they definitely weren't together, as they mentioned.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he very clumsily proposed to her, didn't he? And she told him where to stick it.
Ooh,
I don't remember that.
Oh, this is a role reversal, Matthew. Normally, you've got this stuff kind of forensically dialed and stowed away. No, I thought that she went and told Tom that she was pregnant, and then Tom was like, "Okay, Kirsty, well, let me make an honest woman of you." He sounds like Frank Spencer to me.
He does right now,
and he clips his voice a little bit when he's talking. But anyway, I don't know. It's very bad Tom impersonation, but you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, that's am I wrong, Keri? Do you remember that?
Don't ask me. I do not remember that at all. No,
I tend to forget most of it. I think I sort of the Archers is kind of filed in my memory, kind of like a wild sort of splashing impressionist painting. There's no sort of detail. It's just kind of like very broad brushstrokes.
Yeah, I think we're all of that school, to be honest, on this podcast, aren't we? But that's okay. Well. We look at the week that's just happened, and if we can reference the past even a tiny bit, it's a bonus.
It's like studying for GCSEs. We wobble towards the recording with everything stowed away, just to sort of let it spill clumsily out of our mouths and then forget it all.
Yeah, and mainly get a D+.
There was one little funny thing I thought was there when Tom first went over to talk to Kirsty, and it was all a bit awkward, that first meeting on Monday, wasn't it? And I think Kirsty said, "Who else knows?" And he said, "Oh no, this was a conversation with Natasha, wasn't it? About who knows?" And he was worried about Kirsty finding out before they could tell her.
Yeah.
And he said, "Fallon knows, but she won't say anything." I was like, Natasha was going to be like, "Is that the Fallon that lost us the flat because she blabbed to Hazel that we were having business deliveries?"
Oh, speaking of which, they were talking about that in bed, weren't they? After that horrific alarm clock sound.
It was a ringtone.
No. No, there were awful ringtones as well. But the episode began on Monday with that really old school, loud...
reversing truck.
Yeah, I mean, it was like those radio alarm clocks, like is in Groundhog Day. It was like one of those.
Okay.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Doesn't he wake up to I've Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher in Groundhog Day?
He does. Yeah.
That must be top of the list of movies it would be sacrilege to try and do a reboot of.
Oh my God, I'm
Yes.
going to confess something to you. I know that about the song, but I've never seen the movie.
Matthew,
Never
I
seen
think you'd love
Groundhog
it.
No, I know. I almost know exactly. I know it as a point of reference, but I've never seen the movie for some reason.
You're in for a treat. I mean, sorry, that's hardly an original comment because it's an all-time classic. But it's such an unimpeachably good movie. There's so little fat on it. All of the actors, all of the bit parts are filled out by incredible actors. I mean, that's the first thing. Like when you watch it, there'll be at least 6 or 7 actors that these directors lean on again and again and again to fill out the little kind of small, like the guy who plays Woogie from There's Something About Mary. He's in it as the kind of oily, creepy cameraman.
Yeah.
Or something. But anyway,
And Bill Murray is just magnificent in it.
yeah. And also just how it's just perfection. Matthew, I think we should. I mean, I know we threaten things all the time, but Matthew, do you feel you could watch it and give us a little kind of capsule review in the next couple of weeks?
I could, yeah. I will do that. I did that with Alf with a few friends because I hadn't seen Alf until I think just last Christmas.
Oh, he's an angry little gnome. Angry little elf, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Given that we mentioned ringtones, and I thought we had a bit of a flat week this week, would you two indulge me for a second in something that might not even make the podcast?
Yeah.
What, play our ringtone?
I'm going to play 4 ringtones, and you tell me whose they were on the Archers.
Okay. Oh, I love this, yeah.
Okay, so this is number 1. All right, you don't have to say yet. Here's number 2. I will give you 2 options for this because 2 people have this ringtone.
Oh, yeah, I remember that being played.
And then...
Are they matched to their personalities?
I wouldn't say so. And then there's this one.
Oh, for God's sake, whose was that? That's just mental.
Listeners, have you made a note at home?
Kerry, I can't decide whether this is radio gold or absolute dog shit.
I think it's halfway in between, but I think we're allowed to stray momentarily into Archer's podcast mediocrity.
Yeah.
Okay, right, I'm trying to think. Like Tom rang Kirsty, so Tom has got to have one of those, hasn't he?
Okay, I'm going to do them in reverse order now because they're very quick.
Peggy.
Tom.
Matthew, come on, put us out of our misery.
Okay, who do you think's got the most sensible one? Which is
The first one. Oh,
that's Amy.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll be Amy because it's just straight, isn't
This
it?
you could have had Chris or Chelsea. This you could have Tom. And this one is...
It's the Wicked Witch of the West.
Is it Kirsty?
Jake.
Oh, as if Jake would have that.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? That's
like
what
our
almost
grass.
inspired me because it just felt no teenager's going to have that as his ringtone.
Yeah, I did tweet in block capitals. Nobody in real life has the ringtones that I used on the Arch.
So if that has stayed in any form, apologies to everyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna. As I said, I can't make my mind up. I don't know how to feel after that.
I think that was fun, and it's only taken 2 minutes.
I know. I am. We're in the middle of it.
Right, Matthew, ring me, and you can see what my ringtone is.
You're Amy.
I am.
So whose man are you trying to steal, Keri, at the moment? Who are you after?
Anybody's. I bet you've got yours on silent, haven't you?
Yeah, you won't get anything at mine.
Okay, I'm doing Peter.
I just did an elegant segue into the Amy. Amy Chris.
Oh, sorry. I just want to know what yours is. I bet it's be so funny.
I don't even know what mine is.
I don't know what mine is.
Right, put your phone on, Peter.
Just say, all right, okay, it's on. There you go.
What's that?
I don't know. It's whatever came with the phone. I like.
All right, Keri, do me.
Oh, come on.
You're going to make a silly noise, aren't you?
I was actually going to line up something ridiculous, but I'm not. Go on. Good morning, television.
Oh, well, that's killed a few moments, hasn't it? Anyway.
And probably a few listeners.
Yes. Amy, is she a slag?
If by a woman's ringtone, shall you know them? Yes.
Oi.
That's a clever way of saying what I was about to say. Keri sent a message when we were doing discussing the topic for the show today, and she said, "Is Amy a slag?" And obviously, that's a fairly loaded way to ask the question. So, Keri, I get the very strong impression you think she is off. She's behaving badly.
Well, I only wrote that because it's a really stupid thing to write.
Oh, so you don't think she's... Because I don't think she's doing anything wrong at all.
I don't know. I think it's got potential to cause upset. I think it's too soon and it's all a bit treading on your mate's toes, isn't it?
Well, I mean, if Alice is the one whose toes are being trodden on, I mean, obviously, she dumped him. So it's fair, he's out there, he's single. If you don't want someone to be single, don't dump them.
Oh, come on. Yeah, it's not quite as simple as that, though, is it? They were in a right messy situation and then the mess is still ongoing. I think just wait a bit. Really?
Yeah, I'm not. I just think it's like when you're. It's like, the 14-year-old kid is like, you can say anything you want, but don't talk about my mum. And it's like, it's kind of, it all feels a bit, they're in their 30s. They're in a small village. They've all dated each other at some point. I do know what you're saying. Like it's a bit unseemly to do it in a hurry, but I don't think if it does happen, I think Alice the most she can say is, oh, well, you could have waited a bit.
Yeah, but I do think it's been brewing as well. So not only is this timing to me off, that she's like nipped round and tidied his flat and eaten his shitty biscuits.
Is that euphemism?
Yeah, she had his jammy Dodgers in her mouth, didn't she?
Yeah, I thought his choice of biscuit were rank bourbons, custard creams and jammy Dodgers. And she said, oh, you've really pushed the boat out. And I was like, I hope you're being sarcastic with that comment because they're crap.
It's hard to tell with Amy, isn't it, if she's being sarcastic or not?
So if you were you're stealing a man, you're stealing some man at the moment, Keri, as you were just saying, or any man. So any man has been stolen by you. What biscuits are they getting at Cusder Warbiz? Boasters, a club, maybe pick up a penguin.
I'm not really wild about biscuits. I don't really have a sweet tooth. There was another biscuit mentioned this week as well. I don't know if you noticed. The anaerobic digestives.
Very good.
Oh, I'm quite proud of myself.
They're small scale, though.
Yes, mini.
It's like a bag of mini anaerobic digestives.
Yeah, those little sharing bags.
Well, it was enough to get Phoebe to go north of Glasgow.
Way. Yeah, she was nice this week, I thought, Phoebe.
Mm. That's kind of, if you had to give the most capsule of capsule reviews, nice was kind of it. It was people being the wind beneath each other's wings, looking after each other. But it was all a bit, beyond the moving bit, it all became a bit dull. Except the problem I've got with Phoebe is I don't particularly care if she buggers off to Scotland. So hearing her sort of farewell tour of the village, kind of like, as they kind of remind you who she's actually got relationships with. It's just sort of, anyway, I know everyone's sick of me being negative, but yeah, I just found it all a bit boring.
I think you're right. She won't be missed. If she never appeared again, I don't think we'd be bereft at all. And I actually quite enjoyed Kate this week because she was sort of being her usual awful self, but it can be quite entertaining, can't it? Her completely tone deaf mother's intuition that was utterly wrong. I quite enjoyed that.
Is this when she went, "You're pregnant"?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, I think it was to do with, she said, "Oh, it's you're going because of Salil, aren't you?" And not Mia, that's the wrong girl. Phoebe said, "How did you know that?" She went, "Oh, mother's intuition." And it was like, yeah, it's not quite for the same reason. And then afterwards, when she said it's for an amazing job that she's going to Scotland, Kate was then, I am disappointed that you haven't got some romance, and didn't even ask her about the job.
It is a shame that an intelligent, sort of high achieving and kind of entrepreneurial woman is leaving the village. It's a shame that they didn't sort of like let her, she couldn't live out her ambitions in Ambridge, or maybe it is realistic. But then, I mean, if Kate can't be bothered to be interested in her, then, why should anyone else? I mean, it's quite weird how it's quite, you have a daughter who's doing that well and just show that little interest. It's absolutely bizarre.
Yeah, and to the killer line where she said, "I came back from South Africa to be close to you." It's like, no, you didn't. Something went wrong. There was some fuck up. You pissed someone off in South Africa. Can't remember quite what happened.
The family. She pissed off Lucas. What's his name? The husband. I want to say Lucas.
Ooh, yeah, Sipo and Nolly's dad.
Yeah. Anyway, she pissed off. I think there was kind of like it was revealed that she'd absolutely pissed off his family, and also her relationship with the kids had sort of degraded as well. But anyway, I just I can't imagine. I mean, Keri, I think we've said this before, but I just cannot imagine. I've said it about Kenton, definitely being the other side of the world from my son and still maintaining the pretense that I'm this kind of fully invested parent.
I know.
Oh, I hope my parents aren't listening to this.
What have you done, Matthew?
I tell you what I thought about this whole Phoebe spreading her wings, getting out of Ambridge thing, and Peggy was fine with it, and Kate was, as she said, can't I be sad at the same time? This is not that long. It's not that long since she walked around the rewilding site with Mike, and he was waxing lyrical about life in Ambridge and how wonderful it was. So was she, the whole time they were having that conversation, thinking, God, I need to get out of this shithole? And he was there going, look how wonderful it is. I thought I'd spend my whole life here. The two things don't quite seem to connect to me.
Yeah, you're right, aren't you? But maybe she was making the very best of her lot at that point and trying to be positive and optimistic. And then she went bowling and it all changed.
So is there a chance she's not going then? Because I think I like what Matthew's saying, like that why would they invest? Because everything is this latest version of the Archers, everything is very kind of structured, and there's kind of always kind of quite clear arrows that point in. There's very little fat on it anymore. So why would they have that scene? Or was she just did they just need a cast member who they were using to go and talk to Mike in a field?
Possibly. I can't imagine her not going now.
I think she's off, and I mean, everyone just is screaming Kirsty at the radio this week when they're going, I wonder who could take over. They'd have to get on with Rex and care about the environment and wildlife. Phoebe's there in the kitchen, saying was it Kirsty saying there's a vacancy for my new best friend? I was like, there's a vacancy at the rewilding site, for fuck's sake.
I know. Even Phoebe was saying, I'll help Rex online from Scotland for a while. So why can't anybody do that?
I know. I like the way it took Peggy to just say, no, that won't work. That's ridiculous.
Why are they, sorry to be a nerd about it again, but why are they getting rid of young blood? They always have to work so hard to get young people into the village and make them seem kind of credible. I mean, it's weird that they've just Toby's disappeared off the face of the earth as well.
They've left us with some right annoying ones, haven't they, to listen to? Like,
oh well, yeah,
they're so bloody rude, Mia and Chelsea. And I know people might say, "Oh, it's teenagers." My teenagers weren't as rude as those two to anyone who will listen.
Yeah,
it's the tones in their voice. God, Mia, I've listened to one of the episodes. I think it might have been Tuesdays, with my AirPods in, wandering around, and her voice in my ear, directly into my ear holes, was just torture. It was very, very snipey.
I think teenagers are sort of much maligned, and I think they're generally much nicer and, you know, politer than they're kind of how they're represented in the press or represented in, you know, like various dramas. And I remember once I was on a bus, and this little girl was kind of like, she's like, Mister, can I sit on your lap, please? And I was like, no. She's like, please, I want to sit on your lap. And I was like, you can't sit on my lap. I was really hungover. And then eventually she was like, look, why can't I sit on your lap? I said, well, 2 reasons. One, you just told your friends you farted. And secondly, I'm in my 30s and you're a little girl, and, you know, I'll look like a paedophile. And she just kind of went,
she was only 5.
she was about 13 or 14, and she just looked at me, and she's kind of like she was just like, yeah, that's absolutely fair enough. Those are 2 very good reasons. She's like, okay. And then, you know, I was like, if you want my seat. Oh, by the way, having mentioned that now, that now gives you a very good opportunity to skewer me for the fact that I said last week that if I had to date anyone, Chelsea would be.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I'm getting ahead of this because I'm just waiting for you to like stick the knife in. I was under pressure to come up with someone, and I'd already said that it was not like a sexual thing. It was just like someone to hang out with. I think thank God I said that. But so having got all my defense in, and please have a go at me. But like this week, I was completely like, no. And it just made me realize when you hear younger people hang out with their peer group, it completely changes how you see them. Like, you know, you can hang out with a 20-year-old at like a kind of a adult's meal, and it's like, you know, you can engage with them one-on-one. But when you hear them with their mates, it's like, oh my God, you're like a different species.
Yeah, but I don't find it realistic. I mean, it might just be my experience. Why would she be so horrid to Jake? And why would Mia be so horrid to Jake? And why did they have to use that voice? I don't know. It didn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I didn't. It didn't seem realistic to me. It didn't seem true to the Chelsea that we had been shown before, that she would be so callous and unthinking with Jake. That was how I felt. I was like, I didn't recognize her. And also, Mia and Jake's relationship seemed to kind of weirdly ping pong from kind of antagonistic to sort of like very affectionate and supportive, but not in a kind of bantery way. But it just sort of like seemed like 2 totally different voices.
Also, mole rat was used. Is that something that anyone would say?
It's an American expression of like kind of kids that just hang out at the shopping centre.
Yeah, I know what it means, but I don't think anyone would say that.
No, well, Jake was quick enough to pick her up on that and just ask, what the hell are you talking about? Did you like the bit that they go to see Jaws, and then she then uses the idiom, there's plenty more fish in the sea?
Oh, exactly. That was so shit. And because then she said, actually, no, there isn't, because they're massively overfished at the moment. Fuck off.
They have turned Mia into an incredibly one-dimensional character. Like, she can only talk about, family or the environment. That's it. There's no...
She's going to be driving around in a Range Rover eating Chateaubriand in a couple of years. You know, she'll grow out.
I really hope so. There was another weird bit about the Jaws thing where Chelsea said to Jake, when she was like loving the film, they came out afterwards, and she said, oh, when the head came out from under the boat, I screamed. And Jake went, I know, I was sitting right next to you. And there was a similar bit with Amy eating biscuits, and she sort of said to Chris, oh, I've got my mouth all full of biscuit now. And I thought, he's right there. He can see what you've got in your mouth. I know it's radio drama, but, you know.
It was all a bit strange, you know. I mean, when you had the visit to Alice's earlier in the week, Fallon had a mouthful, and it really hurt me. Fallon with a mouthful of something sounds like Jolene. And that kind of, it was a bit of a horrible moment for me.
Oh, dear.
Jolene doesn't do it for you then, Matthew. Puts her on a very exclusive list.
She's supposed to have quite large bosoms.
Yeah.
Or a large bosom.
Good for her.
Does that not help?
That always irritates me. This idea that all men are absolutely fixated on giant knockers. I mean, I've got plenty of friends who are, but there's
that's true. Yeah,
it's kind of like have you seen that clip? I cannot stand Keith Lemon or whoever that character, but there's a brilliant clip where that keeps coming up on TikTok where Kelly Brook's going, "What is it with you, all you men being so obsessed with tits?" And he turns around and goes, "Look, if it weren't for them, you'd be working in Dixon's." and to be fair to her, she does laugh pretty heartily, but
that's brilliant.
Did you think they got a little bit too upset about the fact that Chris missed a video of Martha pulling herself up?
What, do you think he got too upset, do you mean?
Yeah, he lost it very, very quickly, didn't he, when they came round to his house?
Oh, that was pathetic, yeah. And I did think Fallon put him right in his place and said, well, you might have missed it anyway. If in normal circumstances, you might have been at work when that happened.
Yeah, you'd be out hammering horseshoes.
You can miss it even when you're in the same room. I mean, that's the point. Like, your kid takes its first steps and it's already happened.
Because we've been here before, haven't we, when Chris was desperate to show Alice when she was in rehab the video of Martha sitting up on the sofa, and it took Susan to say, like, you can make a video and send it to him because that hadn't occurred to him. He's a bit not really down with digital stuff, is he? He didn't really understand that the trashing of the wedding album wasn't completely final as well.
And he's got that alarm clock from bloody forgot the name of the film now.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, yeah. So he's back in the bloody 80s.
Funny you should say that, because I've got a game called Guess the Alarm Clock.
Hey!
No, I haven't. I did like that bit where Amy, because Amy is just, she was a little bit perkier on Thursday when it was flirty. Was it Thursday? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? But when they came over initially, they'd been to Alice's, and then they came over to... Is Alice back in the nest?
Yeah.
Okay. And then they came over they got up the bastard stairs, Kerry, unscathed.
Oh my God, the treacherous stairs.
And into the flat. And then, Amy was like, her place is really together. And Chris was, what? Not like this place.
Yeah.
And she was like, I didn't say that. And she was like, it's written all over your face. And I was kind of imagine that she literally had written, not like this place, from the forehead
like an
down.
Airplane or something like that.
But yeah, that was when he was like, no, I shouldn't have let you in. But no, that's fine now. I should have let you in. And then they got the video out and he just lost it, didn't he? Went a bit nuts.
Yeah, what is going on with him? He's a lost boy, isn't he?
I've got a kid who's a little bit older than Martha. And I just don't, I was trying to really, because obviously, thinking about the podcast, I was like, would I really be that upset? I was like, no. I mean, Cyrus got taken away for 3 weeks to go to Australia to visit his relatives over there. And I missed him like crazy. But it's just nonsense, this idea that part of me bloody hurts. It's like a wound inside me. It's like, no, you fill your boots, watch all your shit TV, play your computer games. It's like, they'll be back. I mean, obviously you're concerned and anxious, but, Keri, you were saying about... you and I were saying we've had some peace and quiet this week in our crowded little houses. It's absolutely bloody marvellous.
Yes, I will not be upset about empty nest syndrome. Empty nest syndrome for me will be a glorious day. I love my children dearly, but I like my own space.
I am full Tom Cruise in Risky Business the minute I have the house to myself. It is the slide on the parquet floor with the squash racket as a guitar. Yeah, absolutely love it.
Well, I'm sort of like that, except mine involved eating a Fray Bentos pie.
How very Uruguayan.
I would love to see Keri's remake, the Keri Warbis version of Risky Business. Keri gets a bunch of strapping male prostitutes over. What would they steal? One of them knocks over Mimi's...
Her Taylor Swift records.
Yeah, then you have to turn the whole house into a giant knocking shop.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a shit movie.
Yeah. I had a Fray Bentos pie and some Martini Rosso on the rocks. It's bloody lovely.
Oh, that's a right old combination.
I know.
Keri, that's it. I'm making steak pie this weekend. You just made my mind up.
Do it.
Yeah.
I actually prefer the chicken ones, but anyway, I had a steak one and it was like not as good.
I mean, I think one thing that I really felt for Chris a bit was that he's in the house on his own, no one else to interrupt him, and he said he felt as if his right arm had gone, and I'd be buggered in that situation too.
Yes, you use your left, and it'll feel like someone else is doing it.
Yeah, or yeah. What's the theory?
Yeah, you sit on your arm, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's a whole chain of these in Viz. You sit on your arm, and then it feels like someone else is doing it. And there was another suggestion to sit on your dick, and then it feels like you're wanking somebody else off.
Oh, I just thought, when Kirsty was talking about the garden, the Remembrance Garden, and she said it was nice to be there with Tom, and that she'd taken Philip there one time, a couple of times, but he tainted the garden, and I just had visions of Philip sort of shitting in the garden. I'm sure nobody else.
No one else said that, but I knew somehow we'd drag that whole storyline down eventually.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Philip squatting on his fiance's.
No. What takeaway? What was the underwhelming takeaway that you think Amy ordered?
They didn't mention the genre, did they?
No, I thought. I mean, because there was that awkward moment where he said, "What do you fancy?" And she went, "What do I fancy?" And then he was like, "Takeaways." I thought she was going to say, "Mr. Wen's cock for one." But he also had that weird moment when she went, "Have the elves been round?" You went, "The elves?" I was like, does he know that elves don't exist? He seems a little bit taken with that.
I mean, this is a point, isn't it? If those two get together, what a pair. Oh my God.
It's extraordinary how dull they are.
Yes, they perhaps deserve each other.
Yeah, we
Do you know
don't
what I mean?
We don't deserve them.
We don't deserve them, no.
I mean, even Fallon, when she rushed to Amy's defence, she couldn't really. What she said, she's the most soulless person I've met in my life.
I do know an Archers fan who'll probably think they are the gold standard of kind of Archers couples. So some people will be happy.
Did you like the tongue twister that Amy gave him, getting singles as a shingle dad in the middle of a divorce?
Also, at one point, she said when Fallon phoned her, after she sort of breathily went, I've got to go. And none of us know whether she did go immediately or whether there was just sort of shagging left, right, and centre.
I very much doubt it.
Okay.
No, sorry. I didn't mean that in a dismissive way. I just meant it's not the impression I got. I felt like it was so awkward. It would have been like one hell of a gear change from the way we were left with it to those two making the. I mean, not the beast with two backs. That's too exciting. I don't know. I'm thinking it's very much Mormon action with a sheep with a hole in it. With those two,
I think they were close to doing something. Okay. I think just even snogging. I think they were realizing something was there.
Well, I've been completely, I've missed all of this stuff. Like, so I should just back off. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, the fact 9 o'clock is pretty late, Keri.
Yeah, I know it's getting late. It's 9 o'clock. But Fallon called her and sort of went, "Oh, how did it go?" Yeah, it was really nice, really good. And then she was saying about the cleaned flat, and it sounded like she said, "I think his tongue's better."
I wrote that.
Did you? Yeah. But it's tons better, isn't it?
So you think she's doing a comparative with his tongue?
Yeah.
I thought that as well, and maybe she wasn't being completely honest with Fallon.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then obviously Fallon did the stunner line that ended the whole week, which was, "I don't know what Chris and Alice would do without you," which is meant for us to all go, "Ooh."
Mm-hmm.
No, did the opposite to me. I was just, it filled me with dread. I can't, please. Can we just have some fun?
Before we wrap this thing up, can I ask you, what's your definition of magical thinking?
I think it was not what was said this week in the Archers.
Yeah, for me, because as far as I knew, it was when I'm trying to make people's clothes fall off with my mind in public.
I thought it was like that nonsense that Noel Edmonds was into, where he's like, "I want a helicopter," and then he gets a helicopter.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what it is, isn't it? You sort of, imagine that you're going to have certain things in your life or things happen to you in your life. So it was used, it seemed, in the wrong way, I think, this week.
Yeah, it's like
wasn't it?
negative magical thinking, wasn't it? It was all about Tom blaming himself. Because he said he blamed himself for the miscarriage, and she said, "I think that's known as magical thinking."
I did feel for Tom. I mean, I know that it's almost compulsory to be down on Tom and say horrible things about him. But I mean, if that can be to link it back to the beginning, if that's my sort of takeaway from it, this was one of those few weeks for me where I kind of was so taken by the miscarriage plot that everything else did seem very kind of trivial and meaningless by comparison. So it kind of all just floated along a bit, really. But
Yeah, and on that jolly note.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I actually meant that sort of quite sincerely. I think it was, it's not really our style, is it, to be sort of super sincere and super, to be super sincere. But yeah, it was very moving for me. Anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely not our style to be super somber, and obviously we have to be to a degree, don't we, because of the topic this week?
Yeah, and sincerely as well. We're not forcing ourselves.
Oh yeah,
it's not like
off
mic. We're like, oh, dead babies. God, what a laugh.
Yeah, what a pain in the arse they are.
Yeah, what a bore. But yeah, it was very moving.
No, it was. I did cry.
So, Keri, if people want to congratulate us on how good we are at being serious and thinking about moving stuff, where would they ping us?
Do tweet to us and follow us on @thecidershed pod on Twitter. It's right good fun there. So please come along.
Do get in touch on our emails. It tends to be social media where people get in touch, but I always like seeing an email plop into the inbox, and it's hello@thecidershed.com. Keri did a fantastic job last week of championing the writing of fine reviews. So please do that. I mean, we got a whole load last week, and it's really good for our spirits, and also I think it's quite good for getting the numbers up as well. So please pop onto any of the podcatchers, iTunes specifically, and give us a review. And Matthew, if people want to harass us on Facebook and Instagram, where do they go?
If they want to harass us on Instagram, they can do it at the Cider Shed Pod, which is the same as our Twitter handle. And we have a Facebook group, which is called the Cider Shed Podcast. A little bit of Columbo love happening over there, Peter.
If anyone wants to talk to me about Columbo, just DM me on Twitter, and I will happily.
Yeah, Justine and Leslie were there. Justine saying her husband has all the box sets and a nerdy book about the script and crew. Do you have a nerdy book, Peter?
I don't need one.
You are the nerdy book.
Exactly, I am the nerdy book.
Also, Gillian thought we were rushing through the podcast last week, but then she realised she was doing what I did with the Archers today, which was play it on double speed when I was re-listening.
I bet Mia sounds really, really weird, speeded up.
Yeah, I did correct her that you always sound like that, Peter. So it was probably on the normal speed.
I've got a very deep, sexy Barry White voice.
You have actually. When I'm wearing my AirPods, you've got a right old rumble going on.
Oh well, it's all. I think. I mean, I have an awful voice, but back in the day, it used to be impossibly squeaky. But I think I've managed to just drink so much booze and smoke so many cigarettes that I've managed to knock it down. I've done a bit of an accident. I didn't have to pay for expensive elocution lessons like David Beckham.
I was told today on the phone to a man that I have a lovely northern twang.
You do have one or two sounds or words that you are left over from Yorkshire, don't you?
Like Phyllis from Coronation Street.
Percy.
Sean Dyche.
Kirsty.
So, guys, thank you very much. An absolute pleasure as always. Let's hope that they give us something a bit more Cider Shed friendly next week. That's not to criticise this week, just that it's easier.
You know what's coming Monday, don't you?
Oh God, go on, hit me with it.
Valentine's Day.
Oh, all right, guys. Shut it down.
Yeah. I'm quite looking forward to what on earth that mess is going to be like.
Oh, God.
Come on. We've got to...
You're right. I've got to be positive about something, haven't I?
We've got to love the carnage. Well, I don't know. Loving the carnage isn't exactly positive. But I want to see what they pull out of that shitty bag.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the spirit of Valentine's, isn't it? Pull something out of a shitty bag.
See you, everyone.
Oh, see you next week.
See ya. Bye.
Hagar